GM. Daily levels, Friday, 26th of January. One thing I'm thinking about, this is still early stages, and there's probably going to be other ups and downs in between. But I'm really starting to think about Ethereum as being a bad bet and going back to the king Bitcoin. So while I think that the bottom is probably in here, most likely on Ethereum, part of me wonders, was it just a fake out? Just a reversal pump around the ETF to trap people again? Because the thing that makes me want to be bearish again on Ethereum is I don't think the ETF matters. Because I don't think the Bitcoin ETF is anything like the Ethereum ETF. This is just very early stages thoughts, though. I'll think more about it. And the reason for that is because TradFi are only just getting to grips with Bitcoin. And you can argue they haven't even gotten the grips with it yet. And like the selling point for adding this to ETFs, right, to investors is, well, you've got stocks, you've got bonds, put a little bit of Bitcoin, like 1%, into Bitcoin. And so I don't understand how 6 months later, when they're still trying to convince people just to go 1% Bitcoin, they're like, oh, would you also like this other thing? Or what is it? Ethereum. Okay. And what's that? It's another cryptocurrency. Okay. And how's it better? Well, it's smaller than Bitcoin. Okay. Does it go up more? No. It hasn't gone up more for 3 years. Right? It's like, why the fuck would we want it? And then there's the argument of, well, it has yield because you can stake your Ethereum and get yield on it and get an extra 4%, and boomers love yield. Cool. Except the CEO of Bitwise said there will be no Ethereum yield in the initial ETFs, at least. It's not that, it's technically quite difficult to do. So let's assume there's no yield on Ethereum. Ethereum's price doesn't go up more than Bitcoin's. In fact, it's underperformed for 3 years. Why the fuck would anyone want Ethereum? It's a genuine question. So I'm revisiting my idea, my thesis about ETH BTC. It can still go higher. I still think it does go higher. But I think it underperforms. I just don't know. I struggle to see where it's going to have outperformance from. It's going to have to come from within crypto, right? So, and then here's kind of where I'm trying to think through an idea, because the majority of people who flipped to Ethereum said, we're flipping to Ethereum because ETH is better. And there's a ETH ETF narrative coming. So most of them said that, right? Their ETH has a better bet for the next few months. ETH ETF narrative is coming up. And for a while, I subscribed to that too. I was like, all right, cool. We're going to run back the same play. ETH BTC will rise. I don't know. I probably still think the price will go up, but I'm actually just fundamentally starting to get bearish on it myself. What's better for Ethereum is restaking, EIP 4844, the Denver fucking conference, whatever coming up, and whatever technical shit they can do. Ethereum just needs to stick to being a tech play for me. Don't try and be money. Don't try and be Bitcoin. It's just not. Never will be. It's completely inferior in every single way. So just stick to being the smart contract innovator, right? But I don't know if they know that. The maxis and it's an interesting time. What does all this even mean? It probably just means that I personally feel better going back to fucking 100% Bitcoin allocation because I'm a Bitcoin maxi, and Bitcoin's just obviously better in every single way to me. And nobody can convince me otherwise. Even Luke has tried to convince me otherwise. And don't get me wrong, I'm not closed-minded. I hear the arguments, but I just don't see it, right? But that's because I more fundamentally believe in what crypto is, like what Bitcoin is. That it's supposed to, the fact that it's never changed the monetary policy, and it is the best at what it's supposed to be. But pure, and then so when you look at it from that perspective, I only see Ethereum as a tech play. But then I see other tech like Akash is tech, Solana's tech. Any other altcoin is just tech. So there's only one choice for the best money, the best store of value, the best collateral. It's Bitcoin. Everything else then is what's the best tech play. And so when I look at it through that perspective, Ethereum's the best layer one. It innovated smart contracts, but is it going to have the best price returns? Probably not, right? Because the lower cap stuff just always outperforms. This is the thing, right? So if you remember last cycle, and this is all like, I'm not selling my Ethereum yet, putting it back to Bitcoin yet. I'm talking through this for myself. This is the very, very, very start of what I'm going to do. Like, I'm going to think about this for several days. It's not going to, like, Ethereum fucking barely moves anyway, so there's no rush on this. But if you remember in 2021, Bitcoin kind of suffered from the success of everything else. If you remember, everything should have put Bitcoin to 100k. All the signs were pointing to at least 100k. It stopped at 69. Why? Well, there's a few reasons. One of which was as obvious, like as simple as SBF, Sam, who owned FTX, was taking everyone's Bitcoin deposits and dumping them to pump Solana and pump FTT. That's one relatively minor reason. It was still a reason. But the main reasons were just the explosion of DeFi and the explosion of other layer ones. And everyone was like, I love Bitcoin, but Phantom's going up 5x. I love Bitcoin, but there's another shitcoin farm on Binance Smart Chain. There was just nowhere to put their money. That exact same situation for Bitcoin in 2021, I think Ethereum has that now. Because Bitcoin has separated itself from the pack. It's a totally different thing now. You have to remember, Bitcoin was not a hedge against inflation in 2021. It wasn't. It didn't perform that way. It was a speculative asset. It tracked the S&P. It tracked the NASDAQ. It tracked interest rates a bit. But when inflation came, it collapsed because of all the leverage. But this year has proven through banking crisis, through fucking Larry Fink, flight to quality, Paul Tudor Jones, store of value, Stanley Druckenmiller admitting he should own it, but he's too old, I'm a boomer. And not just the people, the price action. When we've had crisis, when there's been anything bad, when there's been anything about rising inflation or fears about fears about banking crisis, liquidity issues, Bitcoin has performed well. As gold has risen, Bitcoin has fucking 10x'd it in terms of returns. Gold up 10%, 20%, Bitcoin's up 200%. So it's proven itself to be a genuine macro asset. I really, really, really do not think people are pricing this in yet. In crypto. They think it's Bitcoin goes first, then we rotate to Ethereum. I don't know. I'm going to be honest. I think the whole cycle theory that we knew of is just gone. It was already gone last cycle. We talked about this and we traded it like this too at the end of last cycle. There was no Bitcoin runs first, then Ethereum, then shitcoins. Right? Stuff just ran whenever it was going to run. There was no Ethereum rotation and then Solana. No, Solana pumped from July 2021 until November. It outperformed Ethereum all the way. So there was no let's rotate after. You know, apart from like very quick 2-3 week alt seasons, sure, but I think that old paradigm is just gone and there's something new. And this isn't like saying this time, at least to me, it's not saying this time is different. This is just obvious. How can we have the same market when we don't have the same participants? Bitcoin now has this totally new set of investors. So why would the money that goes into Bitcoin ETFs then cash out of ETFs, pay those fees, take that capital gains tax, and what? Pump shitcoins? Doesn't make sense. Then you say, okay, well, the people who sell to the ETF, right? So the ETF are buyers, but who sells to them? Crypto OGs. Okay, and so the crypto OGs, do they then sell that Bitcoin and then rotate it into alts? Possibly, yeah. That is a possibility. But that effect is going to get less and less and less over time. So right now, the ETFs have, I can't remember the exact figure, but there's a couple billion of net inflows, I believe, or about $1 billion, which is what, 2,500 BTC? And 25,000 it would be, wouldn't it? Yeah, 25,000. And when you think about it, as that grows, what happens when BlackRock has 200, 400, 600,000 Bitcoin and Fidelity has 200,000 Bitcoin in the ETFs, and so a larger and larger percentage of the ETFs is, or a larger and larger percentage of the Bitcoin supply is in ETFs. That's going to be positive for the Bitcoin price over time because it's consistent demand met with reducing supply after the halving. But it's not going to add money to the crypto ecosystem. So now this isn't a bad thing because the growth of Bitcoin legitimizes crypto. And Wall Street are going to ETF everything. BlackRock are going to have an Ethereum ETF. They're going to have a, bless yourself here, I know I'm about to do blasphemy. They're going to have a Ripple ETF. I know. But it's obvious. There's going to be Ripple. There's probably going to be fucking, I don't know what else. I'm not sure about Solana right away. Probably more of the older ones. Ripple. Maybe even like Bitcoin Cash. Who knows? Maybe Litecoin. It's these old boomer ones that are like probably more likely, I guess. My bet is that, maybe even Chainlink, my bet is that Grayscale, the other Grayscale trusts, I think that Grayscale made those trusts with one eye on, can this be an ETF? So that's their bet for what can be an ETF. So I think there's a Ripple one. There's a Link one. There's a Litecoin one. There's a Bitcoin Cash one. There's an Ethereum Classic one. It's all the trash. And we're going to laugh at the time when they're like, what do you mean? They're putting a Ripple ETF? But don't they know that Solana is superior? But that's a crypto thing, right? Only people who are in the fucking weeds on crypto Twitter think that Solana is superior, right? That doesn't mean that boomers... But like, back to the main point is, why would they even buy it? I think this is such a long run thing that it's not gonna produce the positive price effects that people think it is this cycle. When you listen to anyone talk about TradFi, it's so fucking hard for them to just accept Bitcoin. They haven't accepted Bitcoin, right? The investors now need the BlackRock and Fidelity marketing teams to just blast them with marketing for the next year, and for all the financial advisors to educate their clients just to maybe get them to do 1% of Bitcoin. But why would they add Ripple or even Ethereum? Just think of the question. The question will be, you just convinced me to put 1% into Bitcoin. Now you're trying to get me to buy this thing Ethereum, but my max allocation for exotic assets was 1%. Of 60-40 bonds, stocks and bonds. But I'm willing to do 1% into other stuff. Or even whatever. I'm 55-35 into stocks and bonds. And that leaves me at 10%. And that 10% is across, all these other little things. Like some in gold. Some in private equity or private credit. Or real estate. All these other like investment vehicles that are supposed to be non-correlated. And Bitcoin is non-correlated, and Bitcoin does if you put below 5%, if you're a boomer and you put below 5% allocation into Bitcoin in your portfolio, it reduces overall volatility. It reduces it because it's so uncorrelated to other assets. And obviously the upside is so great that it produces positive returns in a bull market. So then I just imagine I'm a boomer with fucking 50 mil sitting with my advisor and he wants me to put some into Ethereum. I'm just like, why? Explain to me why Ethereum's better. And the guy's like, well, it's like tech. It's like buying Apple back in 2001 or 2005 or 6 or whatever. But okay, but why? Prove to me why it's better. You got me to buy this thing Bitcoin. How does Ethereum perform against Bitcoin? There's the chart on your screen. It doesn't. And they're like, well, do you want this XRP thing? Well, how does XRP perform against Bitcoin? It doesn't. It topped in 2017 and has gone down only ever since.